I'm Emily Waggoner. I am a regional political director with the States Project.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a leader of a giving circle called Downtown Nasty Women.
My name is Sarah Anthony, and I serve as state senator and the appropriations chair. I'm here in the state of Michigan.
The States Project focuses on shifting the balance of power at the state legislative level across the country. So making sure that we invest in state legislative campaigns and put good people who care about Americans' interests in office at that level. We focus on building governing power in every part of the country, but really that looks different by state to state, right? Like in certain states, we may have a path to a majority, which would mean we have the path to pass a ton of legislation. But in other states, it may mean that we have the path to protecting a governor's veto, which would protect, citizens from critical legislation being implemented in their state.
In 2022, the States Project invested 8 times more than the next largest coordinated funder in Michigan state legislative races, fueling our suite of innovative, evidence-based campaign tactics to win new majorities in both the State House and State Senate. These chambers were both won by fewer than 330 votes. This work was made possible by giving circles.
I led the States Project's work in Michigan last cycle, which was obviously a huge victory for all of us. But I think one of the accomplishments that I'm proudest of in that work was our laser focused on governing power. We did not give up on the big picture. Having divided government was not our goal. I'm really proud of our commitment to evaluating the honest map and standing by what we believe in, even if it's not the popular thing. I think what sets the States Project apart from other groups in the space is that we are really focused on governing majorities and figuring out paths to power. It's like we only care about making a difference in the lives of everyday Americans, and that means we really focus our resources on the states where it matters and the districts where it matters. In addition to that, I think we are really rigorous about sticking to our spending philosophy, which is put together and aligned with the research in the field that shows us how to run the most effective campaign. We are really committed to that as well. So I think that's a really good example of how our strategy is impacted by the data that we see.
Senator Sarah Anthony is one of the Michigan state lawmakers we helped to elect. The new majority appointed her to lead the Appropriations Committee, the most powerful committee in the legislature.
There weren't a lot of people who look like me that were running for office. Women of color, women from marginalized communities, low-income backgrounds, often weren't represented in the halls of power. And while I've sometimes seen that as a challenge, as I've gotten older and been in politics for a while, I see that as a competitive advantage, that the voices that I'm able to lift up deserve to be highlighted in the Capitol. We now have the trifecta in Michigan. One of the last headlines that I read that literally fueled me for the week was that Michigan is becoming the anti-Florida, right? Anything that you're seeing related to dismantling democracy, taking away women's rights to choose, taking away the ability to vote, the ability to educate people about all parts of our history, the negative that you're seeing in very conservative, extreme states, you're seeing the complete opposite in the state of Michigan. That does not happen without the support that was funneled into these races in the House and the Senate.
Our work in Michigan didn't just start and we have a trifecta in like 6 months. It happened over years and years of work and partnership that has culminated in this huge payoff. We started working in Michigan in 2017. It was one of our earliest partnerships as an organization. And that deep and thoughtful relationship with the caucus, with the members, and with the candidates that were running for office culminated in the level of trust that we had to get super in the weeds on how to run the best campaigns. And I think ultimately paid off with huge trifectas.
Lisa leads a giving circle with the States Project that has been working to shift the balance of power in Michigan since 2018.
This is our 6th cycle. Every year we've been raising for Michigan. We definitely had some setbacks, at times, but we just knew that once we started, we need to keep going. And I think in general, after 2016, we all had a wake-up call and realized that this is because we haven't been working for years and that it's something that we need to keep up. We kind of built up a community before we started our giving circle. There's many people that we brought in, to donate and to teach them about state legislatures. And We have a newsletter that we send out to our members, and they can read it or not read it. It updates people about what's going on in Michigan. That's how we try to keep people engaged. And there's definitely people who are going to think about it once a year. And then there's others that will respond when we send out information, or, how can I help? Or, just like they want to know what's going on.
Last cycle, 316 giving circles fueled our work across 9 states. Together, we helped build new majorities in Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. We defended vulnerable chambers in Maine and Nevada. We prevented a right-wing supermajority in Nebraska. We gained ground towards a majority in the New Hampshire House, and we held our ground in Arizona.
Giving circle dollars in particular are so impactful for the work that we do, and I think mean a lot to the candidates that we work for, because they give candidates the ability to free up their time to actually communicate with the voters that are ultimately going to be their constituents. Giving circles give candidates and campaign managers the opportunity to be really thoughtful about the way that they engage with the communities they're going to represent, because otherwise they would be on the phone for 30 hours a week talking to people from, all over the country, trying to get a dollar. You all put your energy together and give them the money that they need and the time that they need to communicate with those voters.
In Michigan, Giving Circles focused on raising early money, which powered the strongest candidate door-knocking program in state history.
The old adage that the 2 things that win campaigns is dollars and doors could not have been more true in my race, and really in races across Michigan. The early dollars were important to help us build our, individual capacity to go out and do doors in areas that I was not familiar with. When the average voter gets a piece of mail from me, and maybe it's a very conservative area, what did they see? Well, they saw me, an African-American woman. I typically wear my hair pretty curly, and we weren't shy about saying that I was running as a Democrat, and that I was running as a pro-choice Democrat, and that I did believe in equity and inclusion. But when you read that in the 25 seconds between the door to the recycle bin, many people don't get a sense of who I actually am. They didn't get a sense of the fact that I was able to and willing to fight for issues on a broad spectrum. And so that's why doors were so important, that I could, as an individual candidate, have a nuanced conversation, and sure, there's probably like a half-naked baby running around or a dog barking, or, we're in the rain. But those types of conversations made all the difference in a way that a social media ad, a flyer that comes through the mailbox, or even a radio ad or television ad just doesn't do justice. So with the dollars that we were able to receive, we could free up my own capacity to have one-on-one conversations with people with very different views, but we were able to win them over after that nuanced conversation.
Being a state legislative candidate can be a super isolating experience. It's the first time a lot of these people have ever run for office. They're having negative attack ads against them. They're the face on all of this, and they feel very vulnerable. And I've heard from so many candidates that having giving circles, these like community of strangers who don't know them at all, rooting for them, fundraising for them, and putting energy into their election means a ton. I know that it's really powerful for them to hear that they have people backing them up. And every time we have a Giving Circles event with one of our candidates, I'm always shocked by how touched they are by the work that you all do.
Without the investment of folks with the Giving Circle that were able to take a chance on me, yes, this seat may have went to a Democrat, but it wouldn't have, again, catapulted me as the first African-American woman that is not only in the halls of power, but is now leading the Appropriations Committee, the most powerful committee in the state. We were able to do so much more in order to, again, make history. That doesn't happen without Giving Circles. The majority, means everything. It really, really does. It has allowed me and my colleagues the ability to dream, not just on the thing that will maybe get across the aisle, but the thing that's going to change lives. We're not just yelling and fussing, we're actually delivering. And that's what the majority has meant for us in Michigan, is finally able to deliver for our people.
feels like an accomplishment that, you know, we've been able to help women get elected, people of color, and LGBTQ plus lawmakers in Michigan. I don't think I ever get sick of saying it, but watching, you know, what the Michigan Chamber is doing right now, what the legislature is doing right now, I just love to see the list. It's that kind of feeling of like, we're never going back. We're going to, you know, we got to keep this going.
Just in this very short span of just the first few months, we have repealed our 1931 abortion ban, codifying what the voters decided to do in that last election. We have repealed right to work and supporting workers' rights. I am the daughter of 2 UAW retirees, and I will tell you, this was one of the things that my parents finally made them proud of what we were doing in that Capitol building. You think about the fact my father was thrown out of the Capitol years ago, trying to preserve workers' rights. For me to be able to call them up and say, guess what we did at work today, is something that I cannot describe how amazing it feels. We also are looking out for working families. We expanded the earned income tax credit from just a measly 6% to 30%. For working families. That is a game changer. That will literally put money into people's pockets. We also repealed the retirement tax here. This was something that on both sides of the aisle, when we were knocking on doors throughout the summer and the fall, we heard it was an issue that bridged the gap between people's, you know, partisan politics. Just put more money in retirees' pockets. And something that we've heard loud and clear, not just in Michigan, but across the country, is common sense gun reform. We had a tragedy here in mid-Michigan. Michigan State University made the headlines, not just for our basketball and football program, but for a mass shooting. Happened literally right in my backyard. And it catapulted the work we were already planning on doing, which was passing laws related to firearms, safe storage, background checks. These are things that literally in just a matter of months, we were able to do with this new majority, but it just doesn't happen without the majority.
You hear from people worried about issues like reproductive care, you know, gun safety, climate issues, schools, what's banning books. And this gives people a way to do something about it. It's really amazing to be a part of that. I mean, I think that we have not stopped smiling since November. And yeah, it feels really good.